Hi, this is Pat Moorhead. Welcome back to the Moor Insights Strategy Data Center Podcast. We have made it 14 editions without getting canceled. We must not be leaning hard enough in there. Appreciate the audience for tuning in. Joined by my co-hosts, Paul and Will. Matt is, traveling back from an unnamed NDA event somewhere, so we can't talk about that. But hey, if you're new to this data center podcast, first I have to ask you, where have you been? And what's wrong with you? But also out of the other side of my mouth, thank you for coming on. We talk about the top data center and data center edge news and analysis. We talk compute, cloud security, storage, networking, operations, data management, and of course, AI, because we don't get enough AI out there. That's a joke, fans. And we are talking quantum computing. So guys, we have a great show. I mean, there was so much announced out there at AWS reInvent.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that, Paul?
Like 150 announcements I heard.
Yeah, they do the shock and awe out there. So we're going to be talking Cisco Partner Summit. We're going to be pretty much talking about everything. But hey, somebody has to go first. So let's talk about Bedrock, building a better Bedrock that came out of AWS reInvent. Paul, I call your name.
Yeah. I'm actually worn out after AWS. I was clocking in like 8,000 or 9,000 steps a day, according to my Apple Watch, but going back and forth to different presentations. They announced a new capabilities in Amazon Bedrock. Bedrock is a fully managed service. It's got your choice of really high-performing foundation models like AI-21, Anthropic, now Cohere, Meta, Stable AI, and Amazon. And you can use these to build your Gen AI applications, and it's serverless, so you don't have to worry about infrastructure or anything like that. You can integrate and deploy the Gen AI capabilities into other applications using AWS, of course. But currently, they announced the availability of Meta Llama 2, the chat 13 billion parameter large language model. Meta currently has got from 7 billion up to 70 billion models. And so this is a little smaller model. AWS is the first, AWS Bedrock's the first one to offer a fully managed API for Llama 2. So I think they're going to do well for it. They also added Cohere as a foundation model provider. And then they've got some later models from Anthropic and Stability AI. So they're doing a good job. One thing that they added, I think, is important, is they added the ability to either have automatic or human evaluation of the models. It allows you to look at the accuracy, how robust it is, and things like that. So I think that's going to be a good feature.
Yeah, and I like their guardrails that they put in because they're fine tunable, right? So instead of corporations trying to figure out what everybody needs and what proper speech is and what's not, it allows you to put in stuff that is what you want to talk about. Because a sports chat site where people are talking smack, you're going to have different types of needs than, let's say, a healthcare company. Okay. Yeah. So that was, again, I usually don't get too excited about the guardrail stuff, but it's literally a product. It's really a service called Guardrails, and you can put topics that you don't want to be discussed. So I thought that was good.
Yeah. They're doing a good job with it.
Pat, I'll add to that. Sorry, Paul. No, I was just going to say, I wanted to add that I was also impressed with the data encryption. And, you mentioned healthcare, Pat, so HIPAA compliance as well as compliance with GDPR. So I'd be remiss, not mentioning the security aspect since I do cover security for the firm.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, I think it was good to see the new Bedrock models on text and images. It clearly competes with Stable Diffusion and also Dolly 3. So it was good to see. Hey guys, let's move to the next content. And Paul, your video's clipping. If you can shut off all your background services and stuff like that, I would appreciate that. While our friend Will is going through this next topic. So hey, let's jump in here. HPE Intelligent Edge Performance. HPE was early with the Edge, huge Aruba acquisition. How'd they do in earnings?
Well, they killed it, Pat. I mean, they set some records, and I saw that you were tweeting or Xing out, some insights as well tied to HPE's earnings. But what I found really compelling, their Intelligent Edge business unit, and as you mentioned, they've really been the first to really focus on this whole notion of bringing intelligence to the network edge. So year over year, over 40% growth, and the Aruba networking portfolio is included in that. And so it's tremendous growth. I mean, given the prevailing economic conditions that are out there right now, it really sort of proves just the success that HP is having, not only with Edge, but just networking in general. And hey, at the end of the day, everyone needs connectivity solutions. I think there's lots of headroom as we sort of look forward to future quarters. HPE acquired Athonet that brings LTE and 5G core capabilities into a private networking offering. And I'm beginning to see the acceleration of private networking within the enterprise as well. So, and then security, they've made some security acquisitions that we've spoken about on prior podcasts. So I think there's also lots of headroom for further growth.
Yeah, it's just amazing. That number is mind-boggling. By the way, it didn't meet Wall Street expectations.
That's crazy.
No, I know. Which I guess that's the stock market kind of challenge here.
Yeah.
But HP has made a bunch of bets, and Aruba was a huge bet. And we all talk about the pervasiveness of the edge and the growth of the edge, but numbers like this, I think, absolutely speak volumes. So, what can they do? I mean, what's next, Will? Like, they made a couple acquisitions with 5G capabilities. I mean, what's their room for growth here?
I think, like I was mentioning earlier, I think it's really going to be around private cellular networking, Pat. And, now that they have Athonet, they have Core, they have all the key ingredients to compete, with others in the marketplace. And again, I'm continuing to see the adoption of private networking accelerate. Most of it's been around LTE because, quite frankly, LTE does an adequate job for most, use cases and workloads and that sort of thing. But as companies get into computer vision and where video and latency become really, really important, that's where 5G is really going to shine. And so I think that Athonet acquisition, as they begin to integrate that, and by the way, that'll be integrated into the Aruba portfolio, because prior to that, Aruba had a relationship with Celona, where when they came across a private networking opportunity, basically Celona was on their price list. But now they're building their own solution that's going to provide them, deeper profit pools, and I think, from my perspective, revenue upside. And then also some of the security announcements that they've made that have really enhanced what they're doing with SD-WAN and Silver Peak. I think there's just plenty of growth for them, not only in Edge, but in networking in general.
No, it's good. Hey, let's move to the next topic here. Thumbs up on AWS Innovation Center. What's going on here, Paul?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be covering the Innovation Center probably in a week in Forbes. I've done some research on it. It's really a good product. The Innovation Center is a program that helps customers implement and explore and understand generative AI solutions or whatever their specific needs are. They've got a custom model program now with Anthropic. And AWS and Anthropic partnered to launch it's called the Custom Model Program. And it gives the customers access to Anthropic Claude, which is their newest model of LLM. And they've got some kind of unique things in it. Right now, it's in review, and it won't be available until sometime next year, I think. But customers can provide their own data and get feedback and fine tune and optimize the model with the help of AWS and Anthropic support. So it's a good program.
Yeah, it's interesting how close that people that companies get when their competitors are doing something dramatically different. So you've got Microsoft aligned with OpenAI, which means that Amazon would naturally be more aligned with Anthropic. So I think this makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Let's move to observability. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Right up your alley, Will. So
Yeah.
I must have missed this.
Yeah. Well, I was remote. So unfortunately, you and Paul and Anshul were on site in Vegas. And hey, I made it to Vegas 9 times this year. So I had 2 back-to-back international trips, Europe and then Japan. So I decided to phone this one in from home. But when I tune into the live cast, one of the very first sessions opened up with observability and, AWS talking to the importance of observability. I tweeted something out or X'd something out on that. And, but there wasn't, it was sort of like it was mentioned, and then there wasn't really much more of a deep dive, but maybe that's a precursor. Maybe we're going to see more from AWS on what they're going to do to drive observability within the cloud. I mean, certainly the advantages of observability with networking assurance, improving resiliency, and bolstering security is unquestioned. So, yeah, I mean, and I'll also state too that, just kind of being at home and kind of covering the event remote, I was just sort of blown away by, the investments that AWS is making and how much further ahead they are of their competitors with respect to silicon. I know you weighed in, Pat, on that as well, but just, sort of just AI in the cloud in general, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think as it relates to AWS and observability, I think their biggest challenge would be, do they want to have observability for on-prem infrastructure, and do they want to have observability for devices?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's I do see value, and they do have observability with their APIs, with their infrastructure, and everything. But I think people are looking for less vendors, not more.
Right.
And they're also looking for vendors who can go across the gamut, right? Whether it's logic or whether it's a Cisco or something like that. And this Cisco Splunk, right? You'll have Splunk, you'll have AppD, and you'll have 1,000 eyes coming together. And by the way, a lot more competition coming in. Elastic is getting into the observability game. About 99% of enterprises use Elasticsearch. And you can imagine, with all this corporate data that's already been indexed, they make a play for this. So yeah, man, observability is hot, right? We got fractalizations of infrastructure, and we have fractalizations of applications, and too many vendors. And the enterprises are looking for more strategic, less point solutions, even if they don't have the latest bells and whistles.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, and all of that fractionalization, I love that term. I've heard you use it several times over just this past week. It creates blind spots, right? And so, if Amazon really wants to get, serious about it, having that on-prem component is important because that'll provide that sort of that full view, right? From on-prem to cloud. So completely agree with your assessment there.
Yeah. Hey, let's dive into the next topic, and that is SageMaker. So just to set the stage here, you've got SageMaker that is AWS's end-to-end machine learning framework, and then you've got Bedrock, which is a managed service for generative AI, where you don't have to, pick your own compute. So yes, their machine learning is not being replaced by generative AI, is it, Paul?
No, it definitely isn't. And I'm kind of interested in SageMaker. They've got some new features. They've got 5 new capabilities they announced. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm taking a second look at SageMaker for one of my own personal research projects, and it looks like it's going to fit right into it. SageMaker's been around, I think, since, remember when, like 2017 or 2019, in that area. Like I said, it's a fully managed service. It's got a lot of tools and high performance, low cost, relatively low cost for machine learning, and you can use it for just about any use case. So it looks pretty good. They've added new inference capabilities. It's going to help reduce some of the foundation model deployment costs, because that is pretty expensive. It also is going to reduce the latency. You can deploy more than one foundation model on the same SageMaker endpoint. So that's a good thing. Another feature that they added that is also going to reduce the training time and the cost is it's called HyperPod. It's a purpose-built infrastructure for distributed learning or distributed training at scale. So that should do a good job. The one I like is they've also got, I'll mention this, they've also got SageMaker Clarify, which is similar to what they've got for the foundation models. You can go in, and it'll evaluate and select the best models for you. So that's in preview. The feature I like, it's called, kind of attracted me to SageMaker, it's called Smart Sifting of Data. It automatically goes in and it'll inspect and evaluate the training data on the fly. So you can selectively kind of learn from using only the best data that you've got. So that's going to reduce training time. That's going to make your models a lot more effective. And they say it's going to reduce the cost up to about 30%. So they've got some good features, and I'm going to look into it myself personally. So
that's great, and I like to see the continued innovation. I mean, tech is rarely about or. I think the only time that we X'd out a technology was when it came to mini computers, right? Still doing mainframes, still doing x86 servers, still doing remote desktop, remote apps. I guess we don't use dial-up modems anymore, but then again, Will, you can keep me honest here on, I think people still are, selling services for dial-up for on the edge. But yeah, we're very rarely is it. And by the way, if you can have a machine learning solution versus generative AI right now, it's about 10x less cost as well. So yeah, machine learning is alive and well, and SageMaker's an end-to-end tool. Again, SageMaker goes all the way from data ingestion all the way to deploying these models. I'd like to see better linkage between SageMaker and Bedrock, or maybe it's there. I'm just not aware of it. And I'd like to see in SageMaker a more intelligent way to pick your training and inference silicon, because kind of you have to go through spec sheets from Intel and AWS and NVIDIA and Qualcomm to figure out, choose your own adventure. So it could be a lot easier. Hey,
And
let's move.
quantum
Yeah,
is bringing back machine learning too. Machine learning is really a great fit for quantum.
interesting. I didn't even think there would be what does that mean, Paul? Like kind of simulating quantum through
Well,
machine learning?
you can use it's recognizing signs and stuff in the Tesla and automatic driving. I mean, they use they can use quantum to do that type of machine learning. So,
I
and
got you. Sorry about that. Okay. Yes, we've seen that from Quantinuum. We've seen that.
IonQ
Uh,
is doing a lot of work in it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, thanks for that. Yeah, and it's funny, like uh, we're not forgetting about quantum anymore in this generative AI investments continue. And without saying anything, there's some pretty big announcements coming up. So, okay, let's move forward. Cisco Partner Summit.
Yeah.
Will, you were there on the ground. I was there last year.
Yeah.
Didn't attend this year. What did you learn?
Well, this is in mid-November, so I've been on the road. So I spent some time with NTT in Tokyo, almost just right after the event. But I love the Partner Summit event. I mean, Cisco is one of the few infrastructure providers out there that has a discrete event that is focused on its partner community. That's important because 95% plus of Cisco's selling motion is through the channel. I appreciate this event because when I worked in corporate America for a good part of my career, it was spent in the channel, both in channel sales as an individual contributor, managing sales teams, as well as managing channel marketing teams. So it was great at a very high level, as you could expect, some very partner-centric occurrences. One, a consolidation of the compensation programs for partners. Traditionally, there have been three. Partners don't like different moving parts, and so Cisco wisely is now folding these three different incentive programs into one. This is going to take some effort. It's going to take a couple of quarters, so they expect to complete it, I think, by about the middle part of next year. But what I like about Cisco's approach is they're inviting partner input into that to refine that, to make sure that they're hitting all the right things for partners. So that was big news. Another piece of news, Oliver Tusik, I call him the Energizer Bunny. He's led the partner selling organization globally for the last, I think, 5 years. There was an announcement that Oliver is going to be moving back to Europe, and he'll actually be the EMEA president and leader. And they announced an executive that's coming from Microsoft that is going to take Oliver's place for partner. He has a lot of experience at Microsoft. His name is Rodney. I'm forgetting his last name, so shame on me. But I did write a Forbes article, and all of that is contained in the Forbes article. So I would encourage our viewers to go check that out. So that was sort of the partner piece of it. There were some product announcements, one around security. And so to make it simpler for partners to sell Cisco's security portfolio, they've created security suites. There are three initially that have been created. Jitu Patel, that leads both security and collaboration for Cisco, got on main stage and spoke about these. Again, the details are in that Forbes article. But I'll also mention, we were talking about observability. Cisco's leaning very, very aggressively in observability. Obviously, the Splunk acquisition, ThousandEyes, you mentioned it, Pat, App Dynamics. I mean, really, I believe the company is raising the bar. And once the Splunk acquisition closes, that's going to be a very high bar. Cisco's already in front of that. At Partner Summit, they announced 7 new observability sales modules that focus on different aspects of the business and basically allows partners to build a managed service practice. And so that's huge from my perspective, because that really moves the value-added reseller into a strategic consultant. type scenario. And there's more profit. There's more, there's more revenue that's tied to that managed service sort of path for partners. And I spent time in a breakout with some executives as well, where they're not only with observability, but they're looking at different programs that can move kind of just those box pushers, those value-added resellers into more of the managed service realm. And that's a great thing. And that's going to create stickiness for Cisco from my perspective, because at the end of the day, I mean, there are other solutions out there. I mean, Cisco may have the best observability platform in town, but certainly they have competition with HPE and Dell, and Lenovo and others when it comes, and Juniper Networks, and I could go on and on and on when it comes to networking and security infrastructure.
Yeah, so I'm not going to add incremental value to the event because I wasn't there. I just wanted to have a commentary on what some things I see going on at Cisco strategically. Forever, probably 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, in a meeting with Chuck, really talking about, hey Chuck, how do you make money on the public cloud, right? Because they're doing some of their own silicon. A lot of the services that you offer, they create themselves, right? How are you going to monetize that increasingly? And what they've come out with is, first of all, they come up with a co-development program on silicon with Silicon One for the CSPs, which by the way, their definition of service providers is CSP and folks like AT&T, right?
Right.
On the carrier side. And they came up with a cross-cloud networking service, and they've got a cross-cloud observability. So regardless of where they're doing their core switching in there, they get a toll regardless, right? And I think that they add Splunk, and they just turbocharge
big time
observability. And it is funny. I think that well, first of all, Splunk is used a lot for security. Okay, my nephew actually got his security admin role because he was so good at Splunk at the university. But I feel like there's a bigger play here that nobody's talking about, and potentially having some sort of a data fabric that goes across everything. But Cisco, I wouldn't expect them to lay that hand out there, because it would be super secure.
No,
so
I was just going to say, Pat, no, just to kind of add to your point there, I call, the Splunk, acquisition, it's a kitchen sink, right? So you're right. A lot of the discussion's been around security, but it brings so much more. It brings network assurance. I mean, it brings a whole host of, additional capabilities with cloud native application protection and that sort of thing. So it's really a kitchen sink. So I think, a lot of the press has been around the security, but I think there's a lot more there, to your point.
So, hey, I'm going to call an audible here, and I'm going to add a topic here, and that is AWS's new homegrown silicon. So, for context, AWS has the highest market share in IaaS plus PaaS, so infrastructure as a service, and then platform as a service. And so they are the 800-pound gorilla, and their market share in that has been very constant over the last, I think, 5 or 6 years, right in about the 30% zone. So if you're a merchant silicon provider like Intel, NVIDIA, Marvell, AMD, right, you want to be best friends with AWS, okay? But I say but. So therefore, AWS, a lot of people want to do their first out merchant silicon offerings with them. AWS has been working 10 years on their own silicon, right? They made an acquisition called Annapurna, and it essentially, they started off doing x86 server offload with a chip called Nitro. And then they came out with general purpose silicon for servers called Graviton. And then they added what's called Inferentia for inference of AI, ML. And then they added Trainium, which is for training these workloads. So they literally have end to end. So, well, what did they do at the show? So the first thing they did is they brought out a new piece of silicon, again, 4 versions in 4 years. This one is called Graviton 4. And Graviton 4, what it layers on is, first of all, higher performance for all the workloads the Graviton 1, 2, and 3 could do, but it also added a dual socket capability. And dual socket capability on a server is really good for scale up workloads. Okay, so the cloud has been defined as scale out, where I've got a ton of servers, and if I need more capacity, I go out to another server. And then I find some novel ways to lower latency or share memory through things like ROCm. But when it comes to ERP and when it comes to databases, particularly the legacy ones, they love having 2 sockets. Okay, and this is hard because you have to manage memory, right? You have to manage memory not only between the 2 sockets, but then you have to manage memory as you scale this thing out. So, a little bit unsurprisingly, right? There was an announcement made with SAP and SAP HANA Cloud. Now, SAP HANA Cloud, for the record, is not yet Graviton 4 compliant, meaning certified. But Graviton 1, 2, and 3, and Jürgen Mueller from SAP talked about getting a 35 to 40% performance per watt advantage on SAP HANA Cloud workloads. And so this is kind of the last bastion of like workloads that Graviton has gone after that they've now added to the portfolio. So I mean, whether it's a simple web front end, Memcached, doing scale out workloads, doing ML, AI, and HPC, that was Graviton 3. And Graviton 2 is just expanding the portfolio of more complex, higher performance, higher memory offerings. And by the way, when I say they've completed the fold, that doesn't mean we're not going to see more Gravitons. We're going to see a new Graviton probably
every year. Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So yeah, the beat goes on. I wish that AWS would have been a little bit more overt in how it performs versus AMD and Intel. And I can do some back of the envelope stuff, right? Because they compare to themselves, but it's hard to tell. Second new piece of silicon was Trainium 2. Okay, that's in preview right now. And again, to train large language models, and I think you could also do machine learning models, but you could probably do that on Trainium 1. But Trainium 2 bumps up the performance in an order of magnitude. And their press release was a little bit more revealing, and they said it's literally the highest performance training solution that exists. Okay.
Wow.
And by the way, they said that about 10 minutes after NVIDIA's Jensen Huang getting on stage, and they announced this big alliance together. So yeah, and I got to meet with the architects that were there, and again, they're about 10 times smarter than I am. But going through, had a bunch of NDA conversations I can't talk about, but this team just continues to crush it.
Yeah.
They did say that they had sold 2 million Graviton, made 2 million Gravitons that are in service. And by the way, that doesn't include Graviton 4, but those are pretty hefty numbers. That's 2 million chips that Intel and AMD didn't see. So hats off to the AWS custom silicon team. I mean, they're crushing it. And who would ever thought that an end customer could be competitive in silicon?
It's crazy, right? And like, Pat, I was struck with also what they've done with the power envelope to make it more power efficient as well. Because with
Thank you
all
on
of these,
Tranium 2. Sorry, they said it was the most power efficient
yeah,
training solution
yeah.
too.
Well,
Yeah.
Graviton, like what, Graviton 4 is like X percentage, faster and, 40% more power efficient. And that's really important with these power hungry AI, workloads and models, right? That are just going to, spike the electricity bill, for a lot of these enterprises. So,
Well, the power budget of these data centers are going to get, I think we're at maybe 3% of the planet's energy is consumed by data centers. I think we're moving at 10 to 15
crazy.
percent. And by the way, the part of the magic is that AMD and NVIDIA designs are based on GPUs with some sprinkling of some ASIC acceleration on there. Trainium and Inferentia are giant ASICs, okay? And ASICs will always be higher efficiency than a CPU or a GPU. Their only drawback is typically that they're harder to program for, right? And they're less flexible. So you have to do that in the compiler level or API level and tricks. But if and when you can nail that, or if you write to a framework, in the case of machine learning, where you write to PyTorch or some some other type of framework, it actually doesn't matter. I got a tour of their Austin facility where they literally let us take pictures of the chips. Now, top of the chip, you can't stealth anything, but they let me take pictures of the bottom of the chips that shows the pinouts. It shows all the some of the secret sauce on the connectors, and they let us take pictures of their infrastructure. I mean, I saw Marvell and Lattice chips on their training and inference racks. So yeah, they gave us pretty much open field to look anywhere and ask any questions. And to me, that shows confidence, but also shows the stakes are raising, right? Because 2 weeks before, Microsoft brought out their own AI chip, and they brought out their own ARM-based general purpose chip. So, anyways, competition is good, and then you have Google Cloud with its TPU, and likely Google is likely going to bring out an ARM-based general purpose SoC as well. So and Oracle Cloud is already aligned with Ampere, right, on general purpose. So competition is good. And again, final, just to make a long story longer. Sorry, guys.
You love silicon, Pat. We'll let you talk, man.
Well, it's funny. I remember 6 or 7 years ago, nobody cared about silicon, and software is eating the world, and
Right.
there's differentiation in silicon. And I've always been a big believer that you allow yourself to get commoditized. Okay, it doesn't. Oh, it's a commodity market. No, you allowed this to happen.
Right.
And AWS just totally turned it on. And I have to give credit as well to the IP providers like ARM. Okay. And the tool providers, Synopsys and Cadence. Okay. Because what happens now is, again, there's no off the shelf IP, but ARM will develop a very capable CPU, memory controller, and stuff like that. They will put that into Cadence and Synopsys tool sets, and then they will test that all the way down to the foundry, like at a TSMC. So it's qualified IP.
Right.
And then the ARM business model allows you to take the proprietary IP by, let's say, an AWS, right? Let's say it's a machine learning block that you want to put on the processor or special security stuff, And that's qualified all the way and usable in EDA tools, Synopsys and Cadence, all the way down to the foundry. That's why you turned what once was a $2 billion project into a $50 or $100 million project. That's why.
Right.
And by the way, they probably have 10% of the people that an Intel has per design.
Mhm.
And you would
Right.
think, oh my gosh, how do they do this?
Talk about democratizing, and lowering the bar, right?
But
Yeah.
I walked in, I did this tour, and like they're taking a wafer and doing a system test on it. And it's like, usually system tests, you have to take it, you have to package it, and then you have to do the system test. They're doing actual AI algorithmic functions when it's a freaking wafer. Okay. That's new. And the way that they did some of their tests. So guys, that's all I got. I wanted to, end with a bang here, but it's great to see everybody.
Yeah.
Are y'all done with travel for the year?
No, but
No.
you've inspired me, Pat. You said you saw some jitter on my my video. I'm going to go all in and replace my 9.6 dial-up modem with a 56K. So you heard
All
me.
right, Paul.
I knew it, Paul. I knew it. Yeah,
I
I've
love
got my last travel is next week. So actually, no, I take that back. I've got a 1 day the week after, but I'm going to be hitting again semiconductor. I'm going to be doing Lattice Developer Day, and then Marvell Analyst Day on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and then AMD has an AI event as well. So it's going to be boom, boom, boom.
Well, Pat, I'm going to join you for Marvell, so I'll be there as well. And my last trip of the year, I'll be headed to Bray, Ireland. I'm going to spend time with Druid Software. They do LTE and 5G mobile core, and Napatech. They do UPF offload, and I'll be attending their demo day. And they invited me after I wrote a Forbes article about their collaboration together, and I'm hoping to learn some more, and I'm bringing Megan along as well. She'll be coming with me on my first business trip ever. When I told her about Ireland, she wanted to go, so she's already packing her bags, and we don't leave until I think it's the 13th of December. So, and then that's it for me. Then I'm home. Rest of the year.
So crispy. I think I need to add it up, but I think I traveled 42 weeks. And by the way, you're the last guy I'm going to ball and squall to because you travel. I mean, maybe more than
almost as much as you. Maybe 40 weeks for me this year. But hey, I love what I do. We love what we do, and we got to get out and circulate to do what we do, right?
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
I'm glad. By the way, I want to talk to you after your trip with your wife, and let me know how it goes. All I know is I work too much when I go on these trips.
Yeah.
And my wife Paula doesn't go on a lot of business trips, so which I totally understand. But we did do 2 weeks in Europe on a business trip. We did.
It was London, right? Was it London?
Yeah, we did London for a week. We did Paris for a week.
Nice.
And I was, trying to like multitask between and working, and I'm just not very good at it. So maybe get some pro tips from you. So, hey folks, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate that. We'll probably knock out one show before the end of the year. If you like what you heard, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't, complain to Paul and Will on Twitter/X or LinkedIn, and share the episodes if you liked it as well. Take care, and